Hello, and welcome to today's episode, The Turing Legacy, Unlocking the Mind of a Genius, of our podcast, The Innovator's Journey. Today, we'll have a very special guest, the legendary Alan Turing. Often hailed as the father of computer science and artificial intelligence, Turing has had a groundbreaking work of mathematics, cryptography, and computing, which not only shaped the course of World War II, but also set the foundation for the digital age that we live in today.
Yes, and while Turing's story has been clouded in mystery and tragedy, his genius and his contributions to this day continue to resonate in our modern world. From the creation of the Turing machine, the theoretical foundation of all computers, to his pivotal role in cracking the Enigma code, Turing's impact is immeasurable. Today, we are beyond excited to sit down with Alan Turing himself. So, Alan, thank you so much for joining us. We're honored to have you here.
Thank you for your kind words. It's a curious experience being here in this format. But of course, I'm pleased to be part of the discussion. After all, what we think of as computing today is a direct result of ideas I had back in the 1930s and 40s.
Absolutely, Alan. So let's dive right in. To start off, can you tell us a little bit about your early influences and what led you to pursue mathematics and logic? Were there moments that made you realize that you wanted to build a new kind of machine, or was it more of a gradual evolution?
Interesting question. I suppose I can trace the roots of my interests to my early fascination with logic and patterns. I had a tendency to see the world through a lens of puzzles and problems to be solved. As a boy, I was enchanted by cryptic codes and secret messages. But the moment that truly set my path was when I encountered the work of Kurt Gödel, particularly his incompleteness theorem. This led me to the idea of a machine that could, in theory, compute anything that could be logically described. The notion that something as abstract as computation could be formalized, that was an electrifying idea. It was then that I realized I could build a universal machine that could perform any logical task.
That's fascinating, and we've all heard about your work during World War II, where you helped crack the Enigma code used by the Nazis. That's such an iconic moment in history. Could you share with us some of the challenges you faced while working on that project? And what were the moments that made you feel like you were on the brink of a breakthrough?
The task was overwhelming. The Enigma machine had an almost unfathomable number of possible settings, and to break it without the proper tools, it seemed impossible at times. There were certainly moments of doubt, but I think what pushed me forward was the intellectual excitement of the problem. It was the challenge itself. I focused on creating a machine, what we called the Bombay, that could help us test different settings much faster than a human ever could. I remember, after several months of intense work, seeing the Bombay actually work for the first time. That moment was a mixture of exhilaration and relief. It was as if we had unlocked a door that had been locked for years, and behind it lay critical intelligence. It was incredibly rewarding, though I can't deny the toll it took on us emotionally and physically. But the end result, the ability to decipher German military communications, changed the course of the war and likely saved countless lives.
Thank you, Alan. I think that it's remarkable to think that your work helped to shorten the war and ultimately saved so many lives. Now, let's fast forward a little bit. You were the one of the first to think about the possibility of an artificial intelligence, weren't you? With your famous quote, question, can machines think? That's still a question that we wrestle with today. What did you mean by that? And how do you think the field has evolved since your time?
When I first asked, can machines think? I wasn't suggesting that machines could think in the same way humans do, but rather, I wanted to explore the boundaries of machine capabilities. I created what's now called the Turing test to help us measure whether a machine could mimic human conversation so well that an observer wouldn't be able to tell if they were speaking to a machine or a person. It wasn't about consciousness, it was about behavior and functionality.
You touched on something really interesting there, context and emotions. We are living in an age where we've made incredible strides in AI and computing, yet human-like understanding is still elusive. How do you think you feel about the role AI plays in our daily lives today, in areas like healthcare, transportation, or even entertainment?
I must admit I'm both awestruck and, at times, concerned. The sheer speed and scale of modern machine learning are astonishing. However, I still see gaps between the machines of today and true intelligence. For example, while machines can process information, they do not truly understand in the way humans do. They don't have context or emotions. Nowadays, I'd be thrilled with the progress, though I'd continue to caution against assuming we can replicate human-like thinking in a machine.
Speaking of ethics, you have been an advocate for a vision of machines that complement humanity rather than replacing it. And of course, there's your own legacy. You were largely unrecognized during your lifetime, but today you are revered as a visionary. Looking back, how do you feel about the impact of your work, especially considering how difficult it was for you in those days?
I would be both fascinated and cautious. The applications of AI today are immense, from life-saving diagnostics to self-driving cars. But like any tool, AI must be used with wisdom and responsibility. One thing I learned from my own work was the importance of ethical considerations. During the war, we used our knowledge for a very specific purpose, to win the war. But with AI today, we must ask, what purpose are we serving? AI can transform lives for the better, but it also has the potential to perpetuate inequality or introduce unforeseen risks. If I were alive today, I would be deeply involved in discussions around these issues, ensuring that AI serves humanity as a whole and not just a privileged few.
Your story is truly one of resilience and brilliance, Alan. You've inspired countless generations, and your work has not only influenced the field of computing, but has reshaped the way we think about intelligence itself. Thank you for sharing your journey with us.
And before we wrap up, Alan, if you had one message for today's researchers, innovators, and dreamers in the field of AI and technology, what would it be?
It's odd to think of my work in such a way. At the time, I had no idea it would have the lasting impact it has. I was simply pursuing problems I found intellectually stimulating. My contributions in computing and cryptography were all driven by curiosity and the drive to solve difficult puzzles.
But in truth, the struggles I faced in my personal life, the misunderstandings, the persecution for my sexuality, did cast a shadow on my achievements. However, I take some comfort in the fact that, in the years since, the world has come to recognize the value of my work, and I'm hopeful that my story helps others see that contributions to science and society are made by all kinds of people, not just those who fit into societal norms.
A perfect note to end on, Alan. Your legacy lives on today in ways that are both profound and ever-growing. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an honor to explore your your work, and your remarkable impact.
I would tell them, think boldly and responsibly. The pursuit of knowledge is noble, but with great power comes great responsibility. Always ask yourself, not just if you can do something, but if you should do it. And remember that all our work, be it in AI or any other field, is to advance humanity. Never lose sight of that.
And that was Alan Turing, everyone, the man who helped win the war, feathered modern computing, and asked the questions that continue to shape the future of artificial intelligence. We hope you enjoyed this insightful conversation. Stay tuned for our next episode of The Innovator's Journey.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep innovating, and as always, keep imagining the future.
Thank you for your thoughtful questions. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to seeing where the next generation of thinkers takes us.